simplicity of Western Christianity. Let's think critically. Good evening. This is Dr. Lewis Tait, and this is our Bible study at the Village. Critical Race Theology is what we're dealing with this fall. Hope that you've had a good day. I know you probably have had a long day, perhaps, like a lot of us, but hopefully you're doing well, and hopefully you are just thinking about some good things in your life, and some good things you can celebrate today. And sometimes we have to find ways to find some positives in the midst of a lot of negativity. And sometimes it just takes some work, takes a little, thinking about something other than all of the things that seem to be going wrong, and find something good that's happening. So listen, if you're coming on, do me a favor. If you're on Facebook, you go down to the bottom of your page, it says share. Would you do that for me? Go down to the bottom and share so I will know that you are on. Good to see you, Elder Jackie and Patience. Good to see you as well. So you just go down to the bottom and it says share, and you can, I'm going to do some of that now. You can send it to your messenger and invite some of your friends on Messenger to join us. And you just, when you get there, you just simply push send. And then they can decide whether or not they want to join. So take a few minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I just want to thank all of you for your support of the village, support of the ministry that we're doing, support of me and Elder Jackie and members of the village. And I want to especially thank the members of the village for this financial support, their prayers, all the things that you all do to make just make things good for the church so it can function. And you all always remember your church and even some of our good friends who help to support us. We want to thank you too as well, and pray that your support will continue. And anything you want to share with us, please let us know. Sometimes we good to see you, Brenda Perry. Good to see you. Hopefully, if you ever want to email us, you can certainly email us at the church and let us know something, whatever it is you want to share. And there's an email address there, the villagedc.church. And we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to keep up with us. And sometimes you may have some suggestions or just questions that you didn't have a chance to ask while we were online together. So we definitely want you to take that opportunity. Also, a few announcements before we get started. Don't forget to mark your calendars for December 16th and 17th. And because we'll be doing Toys for Tots, and we do need volunteers, so we ask that you would go to the website, villagedc.church, and at least tell us that you're interested in volunteering, so we can start to put the volunteers together and start to organize probably in the next couple of weeks. We know that Thanksgiving is coming up, and so many of you are already probably having your minds facing that, which is the 25th of November. And we'll let you know if we're doing something. We may be partnering with First Rock up the street from the church, and so we may be doing that as well, because they are one of our partners in the community. And we want to certainly appreciate Pastor Mentor and all the work that First Rock is doing. So we are just so grateful. So thank you all so much for all that you're doing. And we pray that you will continue to. Thank you, Elder Jackie, for giving those dates. Absolutely. Thank you so very much. And also just want to thank all of you for all your support of our church. And we'll put the Cash App and the Givelify up around the end of our broadcast today. So today, if you have your Bibles, we hope that you would get them out and that you would follow as we are going back. This is our fifth session called Critical Race Theology Bible class. And the reason why we're doing this is because there's certain things that we need to be critical of, and some of them have to do with race. Some of them have to do with other kinds of things. But when we look at Scripture, you always want to look at Scripture critically, whether you're looking at it from a perspective to find out whether it's been used as a tool for white supremacy or for any kind of oppression or any other kinds of things that we have to deal with. Whether it's sexism or people who are dealing with being homophobic and all those other kinds of things. Sometimes there are things that are not directly said, but there's a lot of information that you can find out, and you can understand, even begin to understand God and God's heart, not what people say about God, but yet sometimes read between the lines. And so this is our fifth session dealing with that. And of course, the time that we use, about 30 minutes, is inadequate to really dive deeply. But we're just sort of skimming across the surface, hopefully to get your interest and do some other things in the spring. And also thank all of you. I was away last week. It was my birthday. Thank you for your cards, your well wishes. And again, thanks for my two sisters, Elder Jackie and Patience, and my nieces who came over, a little Pay and Faith and Rachel. Thank you all so much. Made it a wonderful night. And Deacon Charlie, and we just ate some food and had some laughs, and it was really, really nice evening. And I want to thank you all so much because it was really nice. Now we have two more classes tonight, and the 18th will be off for the 25th because that is Thanksgiving, and most of you know will be with your families, and I certainly will be with mine. And so. And then we'll come back on December the 2nd and December the 9th and December the 16th. So mark your calendars for that. All right. So tonight, I kind of want to just, this Bible study is about what's really going on. And that's what is kind of asking in a question, what's really going on. And so on top of that question, I was thinking today, last few days, is, Black people in particular, not saying that other groups, but I'm just talking about Black folks and African Americans in this country, in this cultural context, have had to deal with a lot of issues, traumas, the trauma of slavery, which we call the Ma'afa, the Maafa, which means great disaster at the hands of Europeans. You can look that up, Ma'afa. And so you can think about what people had to go through or forcibly removed from their country, from their families. You have to think about how many of our ancestors didn't make it because they either died coming down to the shore to be transported on a ship that they had never been on, against their will. They walked many times, sometimes over 100 miles to get down to these coasts. And, they would be intentionally starved, and so that they would be thinner and be able to load more of them. So think about all of this stuff. And then even some of the Africans who were involved in part of trading their own people, not knowing how just devastating it would be for centuries. I mean, just for generations and generations, hundreds of years. At least we calculate probably at least 400 years. And just think about, the ones who died making a trek over in the Atlantic Ocean, and others died doing what they call the seasoning process, when the plantation owners and masters would beat African people to teach other people lessons and stuff like that. And just on and on. You're talking about this trauma. And then if you just bring it up to just recently, you think about how people are being forced out of where they live. someone says they'll offer you a voucher. Of course, if you live in public housing, there's nothing wrong with public housing. Let me tell you that right now. There is absolutely nothing wrong with public housing. And so let's just say you're being forced out of your place or you're being offered a voucher. And you think that's a good thing because you want to get away from your community, but then you end up in a place where you have no transportation to get back and forth to maybe a job you had at your other location. Of course, if you're in this area, say if you get a voucher and go live in Northern Virginia, what happens to your health care? Because now your address is in Virginia, and your health care doesn't travel, so then you have to reapply and see what Virginia offers. All of these things, and then the people who you've grown up around, the people who you've made friends with or like family, and if you have children, on and on, and of course how the system in terms of the child welfare system has been wreaked with the same thing the country has: systemic racism in terms of how they treated black families, how they treated black children. There's no reason why there should be more black children in the system than there are white, considering the percentages. And some of us don't pay attention because we just think that that's just the way it is. So, and right, thank you, Brother Clinton. Yes, people have gone without food and no hope. It's just, it's a lot. Think about the things, even those of us who have made it, or we think we've made it. And Clinton, I'm putting you up here, and so people can see what you have said, which I think is very interesting. It's very good. You think about families and kids who are in food deserts, and those kind of things, and not knowing if a parent is coming home or not. Those. I mean, and then traumatized by the police departments. And you think about it, how black folks have continued to, in many ways, thrive under these conditions, to somehow to make it. But there are just so many that are people, and many of us who just, sometimes just get so weary with so much. And it's not like we're whining and complaining, but it's just a fact. And I wanted to ask myself, man, how in the world do we continue? And, and I just want to really kind of help us understand that we are resilient people. And that what I'm learning through my social work program is this whole, now they call it a theory, resilience theory, which is really a simple thing. It just basically states in that resiliency is the ability of an individual or family or group or community or organization to recover from adversity and resume functioning even when suffering serious trouble, confusion, or hardships. I'm going to read that for you again. And this comes out of one of my textbooks, Charles Zathrow, and it's very good. And it says, and what it deals with is this concept related to sort of what they call strengths perspective. So when you're dealing with people, you're not dealing with them based on what they don't have. You're dealing with them about what they do have, the strengths that they have, and the things that they have gained through life. Because sometimes, when we approach individuals or we approach communities, sometimes we approach them as if they don't have anything to offer, as if their experiences don't matter, as if they don't have certain skills and talents and other things. But it's this whole concept of resiliency, and this resiliency is the ability. It's the ability of an individual or family or group or community or an organization to recover from adversity and resume functioning, even when suffering serious trouble, confusion, or hardship. And and empowerment is resiliency. And so that's the other thing. And I think about when I thought about this, I thought about my grandmother, man, and my grandmother Annie Davis, and I thought about my father, my grandfather on my father's side. We call him Frank Tait, and in the things they had to endure, and but yet and still they found ways to continue to have great resilience. They, in the face of adversity, in the face of the discriminatory practices and all the things they had to face, they found a way to not only make it, but to make great contributions to their families, to the people that were around them. And that's what I'm hoping that we tonight will just think about. Think about when you take a piece of paper and instead of putting down your weaknesses, put down the strengths that you have. Put down the things that you've been able to use in times of difficulty. Think about what you have around you, your family, your friends, people who have contributed to your life, and what you have done in when you have had to face adversity and trouble and difficulty. And see, the whole thing about the strengths perspective I'm learning is that it focuses on people's capabilities and their assets and positive attributes rather than problems or pathologies. Resiliency, though, emphasizes the use of strengths to cope with adversity and survive despite difficulty. So resiliency emphasizes the use of these strengths to cope with adversity and to survive despite difficulties. Now, think about that in the context of yourself. As a African American person, as a Black person, and as a Christ follower, as a Jesus follower, as a Christian, and what that has meant. And so that's why we look at Scripture differently, because we look at it from a position of resiliency and about the stories that reflect what we experience and how we experience it. And that's why we read the stories of Pharaoh and Moses and stuff like that. Yes, in our ways we want to, make it black and white thing, but really it's not just that story's not about black and white, because both of these people are African people, so they have this struggle to not only survive being in bondage, but even Moses himself, and we'll maybe talk about him some more next week, but to survive while you are changing and developing to a better person and understanding, what you really have. So I want you to think about that tonight. This idea of resiliency. Maybe, like I was saying, you could take a piece of paper and just start to list some of the strengths that you see in yourself and see around you, instead of focusing in on the negative things. And like myself, I have a wonderful family who are just, they're just very thoughtful, very kind. And it doesn't mean that we are perfect. It doesn't mean we see things eye to eye. But I see in my family is this whole thing that we find ways to sort of reach out to each other, even if we've had some disagreement. I mean, like last week was my birthday, and my sister Patience asked me, "Lou, what you gonna do? What you do for your birthday? What you do for your birthday?" And I told her, I said, "Look, I ain't doing nothing. I'm taking a personal day. I'm just doing nothing." And she just wanted to do something nice for me. So my sister Jackie called me and said, "Hey, can we come to your house on Thursday? It's 7:00 good?" And I said, "Sure." And it made me feel good. I mean, because I rested most of the day, didn't do a lot of anything. And when they came over, it was just nice. But that kind of, kind of persistence was helpful. Sometimes we as a family or friends, we have to do that when it comes to helping each other with healthcare, with with mental illness and say, listen, I know you don't want to think about this, but let's go do this today. Let's go check on this. So I want to give you the scripture because I want us to think about, what's really going on, because there's so much when you look at the news, you look at this little Rittenhouse guy up there in Wisconsin, well, I guess he's back in the state where he committed the murder, right across the line. And when you think about, here he's being made some kind of hero, martyr, when he's killed two people. And to me, it's almost it's straightforward. Nothing straight when it comes to the predominant culture in America. White, it's never straightforward. It's always, it's always an explanation and all different kinds of things. Black folks, it's like, no, these, we society's quick to call them names and say this, but when it comes to their own, it's got all these different issues. And here. He goes and shoots three people, murders two, and he's a hero, and he may even get off from this. He goes, I think he was. I can't watch this stuff. I just read about it. He was crying in front of the courthouse and the jury and stuff like that because he testified. And why would you be coming to your house, out of your house anyway, as a youngster with a gun, and to protect what? But that's the mentality when you think that you need to go and to protect something that's not even yours, but the assumption is because you white, everything is yours, so you need to go and protect it, and you may even get applauded for what you have done. Yeah, they coached him up well. And so, but when you see these kind of things, particularly as a Black person, I don't know about you, but there's a certain kind of feeling that I get of almost disgust, because I know that, first of all, no Black person, teenager, grown man, grown woman, could walk past the police with a semi-automatic weapon and not get arrested, and walk into a crowd and then, shoot three people, kill two of them, and then walk back out and basically, get escorted home or whatever happened to him, and get to stay at home overnight, a couple nights before he was even arrested. I just know that this wouldn't happen. We've got Black folks who got shot with no guns in their hands, with their hands up in the air, or sitting in the car like Sandra Bland, man, trying to tell her not to smoke in her own car. And she ends up dead in their custody. So, yeah, these are the things that, you ask yourself, what's going on. But we've got to find a way to tap into the resiliency of our ancestors and the resiliency that you have. Here's a text I want you to look up tonight. It's Habakkuk, chapter number 3, verses 17 and 18. I just want you to do that for me in Habakkuk, in the Old Testament. And please forgive me tonight for not having all of my overlays for you all, because it's been a real interesting day, to say the least, and that's not the right text, and I'm getting that out of there. So, bear with me for a moment, yeah. While I fix it, while I get it fixed. So that's Habakkuk in the Old Testament. There it is. It should come up correct now, hopefully. There it is. So, in the Old Testament, and I'm reading from the Voice translation of the Bible. So, in just these two verses, and I think it will hopefully help some of us to kind of think about, even the situation we're in a different way, in more of a positive way instead of negative. And even though things are not always the greatest, we've got to find a way to remain hopeful, and we got to find a way to tap into the resiliency that we have as a people. And it says the text reads this way. It says, even if the fig tree does not blossom and there are no grapes on the vine, that means that nothing's happening. When something doesn't blossom, that means it's not growing. And there are no grapes on the vine, that means it's not producing. And if the olive trees fail to give fruit and the fields produce no food, remember olives was a very big commodity back then for the oils and all other things that was done with it. So this is big. So olive trees fail to give fruit and the fields produce no food. Think about that. If the flocks die far from the fold and there are no cattle in the stalls, that means you don't have any meat, you don't have butter, you don't have milk, all of that. And then this is very key. Then I will still rejoice in the eternal. I will rejoice in the God who saves me, or the God who liberates me, or the God who heals me, or the God who delivers me. I will still rejoice. And you got to ask yourself, what kind of craziness, who wrote this? They must have been out of their minds. But what I think Habakkuk is trying to communicate to us is that things in this life will definitely sometimes go wrong. And sometimes things just seem like they're just dire. Because you read this text and it talks about there's no fig tree that does not blossom. There are no grapes on the vine. There's no olive trees are failing. The fields are producing no food. And there's the flocks have died far from the fold. I mean, they've strayed. And then there's no cattle in the stalls. So basically, you're talking about food sources and you're talking about things that sustain life. And he's saying in the midst of this, then I will still rejoice in the eternal. So it suggests to me that Habakkuk had such a relationship and understanding of God that he was confident even when things were difficult to know that I can rejoice in God because I believe that this situation will not last forever. I believe that this situation somehow it looks dire now, but it's something's going to change because I'm going to still rejoice in the eternal because I have an experience with God that suggests and tells me that I've been in this place before, or I've known of people who've been in this place before, like our ancestors, and they were able to make it in the degree. Sometimes some people may say, well, they didn't really make it. Look what happened. You think about it. Our ancestors who prayed for us in whatever language they had. Our ancestors who, some of them were Muslims. Some of them had traditional African religions. Some of them, they didn't just become Christians when they came to America. But whatever faith tradition, they believed that God, the eternal one, would do something in generations that they would not probably live to see. And that's why Habakkuk, and that's why and that's why I have to rejoice, even when it seems like a dire situation. We've got stuff going on all around in this country. Every day you can pick up, open up your iPad or your cell phone or your laptop or desktop or turn on the television, and it's going to be negativity. There's going to be this whole thing going on now with states want to push more for the states' rights, and that's just code so we can go back to doing things as normal for us. Normal means going back. Remember that. Normal means going back. Doesn't always mean going forward or something wonderful. We got to get back to normal. Well, normal's not good for everybody because normal sometimes means doing things that were detrimental to other people. That means that you don't want to change. It's like when people are asking to reimagine police departments and how the court systems work and how housing works and how the economy not just works for some but works for all. See, when they say going back, what they want to do is do business as usual. And so it's not just a matter of whether we wearing a mask or not, or the stores are opening. It is going back for some means to stay retrenched in their ideology of white supremacy and this idea that everybody else is on the bottom, we at the top, or we set the example for the world, all of this kind of stuff. And so some of us want to reimagine, how not only our country could be, but the world could be if we find a way that everybody is valued, no matter where you come from, the language you speak, the color of your skin, and even your sexual orientation. Everybody matters. And that's a hard thing for a lot of folks to deal with, to handle. And effectively, because they want to continue business as usual. They want to continue the things the way they are, and so Habakkuk is saying, yeah, things are challenging right now because it's no fun when you have no food. It's no fun when you are food deprived and you don't necessarily know where that food is going to be coming from. And he said, but then after listing all, he said, then I will still rejoice in the eternal. That's God. I'll rejoice in the God who saves me. Saves, he wasn't talking about going to heaven when he died. He's about the God who delivers. Deliverance, holistic, a God who brings healing. Remember, I told you about that. And he said, I still rejoice in that God who I know can deliver, who can save us, save me, save you from this situation. And this is important to understand and important for us to grasp and really get in us that we are resilient people. African Americans are resilient, and we don't really have time, and we shouldn't be wasting time with fracturing within our group. We don't like this one, we don't like that one, or you're a Baptist, I'm Pentecostal, you're Methodist, I'm whatever Catholic. We have to find ways to solidly pull together, and to, even if we have disagreements, we have to find ways to organize ourselves so that we can get things done. And sometimes that organization means we also bring other people in who become allies. I'm not against white people. I don't hate white folks or any of that. I'm talking about how things are in this country, and we got to deal with them. Families, white families can't think, oh, we're not going to teach history because we don't want our children to be crying or whatever they were saying. But what do you think about all these other kids, African American kids, Japanese kids, Chinese kids, other people in the history, and Native American kids that have to listen to erroneous history without their stories being told, without being heard? It's not a matter of hurting anybody. It's a matter of telling a story and understanding what has been done so we won't keep repeating it, so we can start working on systemic racism, so we can start working on these things and bring them to the surface and work on them. It's not a matter of making anybody feel guilty. It's a matter of knowing what the truth is. And then when you know the truth will help your children to be free. Because if you don't tell them the truth now and they find out the truth later, it may be worse for you and for them. So this is important for us to do that. So I want you to remember this tonight. If you don't catch anything else I said, just make a list of, even the people you have around you. Even the systems that have worked in some ways for you, but also the ways in which you've been able to be resilient. And even resiliency, sometimes it involves risk and also protection and vulnerability. It doesn't, just because we've been resilient doesn't mean that we haven't had to take risks or that we haven't been vulnerable. We've been all of that. And I want you tonight to take courage, because you are stronger than you realize. You may get tired, and you will. Sometimes you will get frustrated, and you will. Sometimes you just get downright mad, and sometimes you will, and you find ways, even when it seems like there all of the resources have been dried up. There's still something left. There's still something that you have. And so, that's what I want to leave with y'all tonight. Just think about how resilient your family has been, your parents, your grandparents, whoever raised you, the community in which you live. And I say this in closing, Benning Terrace is a wonderful, wonderful community. That's where our church is, and I love that community. And last Saturday, Miss Perry um, um, and oh God, like what can I think of Miss Perry, Miss Edith, and Miss Perry? That's sad. They gave testimony. It was one of the young ladies from the community. It was a WIN action, Washington Interfaith Network. Helped to organize it, but it was those residents who spoke with passion about the things that they've had to deal with since they've been living there, and how they wanted their communities to change. And it was very emotional to talk about what they had experienced. I hadn't heard Edith's testimony that one of the managers that used to be up there at Benning Terrace made her physically try to go up the stairs to prove that she needed that she was handicapped and that she needed a ground floor unit. That just blew me away. I said, that's inhuman. I said, that's crazy. And I'm pretty sure there are more stories that people have had to deal with being treated in discriminatory ways, in inhumane ways, but they found ways to continue. And that's what Edith and Miss Perry, in spite of the difficulties, and that's why I need the members and friends of the village to when we let you know that something is happening there, find a way to support, whether it's putting on your Facebook, or sometimes we get up and we go and we meet and we have to do things. And so I want to bless them for that. So listen, you got what it takes. And it's hard at times. Sometimes you have to go somewhere and get quiet, maybe take a nap, rest yourself, and then think about just the examples of resiliency in your family, in yourself, particularly amongst African American people, the amount of things we've had to deal with and still have to deal with, and take strength in knowing that that God, we rejoice in God, not because we're happy about the situation, but we rejoice in knowing that God will be there, and it's the God who's always been there for us, and God will deliver us in many ways. Sometimes we forget that because we're so angry that it didn't happen when we wanted it to happen, or it didn't happen in the time frame we wanted to happen. But remember that tonight, that we rejoice. We still rejoice in the eternal, and we will rejoice because we know that God will deliver us. All right. So tonight, I just want to thank you all for joining me. Listen, you get an opportunity to support the village. You can give through Givelify. You can give through Cash App, whatever amount you so desire. You go to the website. You can give. Remember that all of your gifts are tax deductible. And so I know it's the middle of the week. Some of you already gave on Sunday. You tithe faithfully, but also you can also give an offering of $5 or $10 to support the ministry. There are a lot of things that we do. It's one of the workers of our church that we continue to support. Support him all the way through the pandemic, and we continue to support him. So these are some of the things that we are doing. Thanksgiving is coming up, and our church will be involved in some ways in helping in the community. So whatever you want to contribute, we ask that you would do that, and we are so grateful for any and everything that you do for the village. Again, I want to thank all of you for joining me. As a matter of fact, do me a favor. Make sure on next week that you, ahead of time, get some people to join us, and also go to our YouTube page and make sure that you join up. and that you be a part of that as well. And this will help us to get the word out about our church. And I think there are more people who want to hear what we're doing. And so this is how we can do it together. All right. So listen, have a wonderful and blessed evening. And we'll hopefully see y'all on Sunday. All right. God bless. Racism and complicity of Western Christianity. Let's think critically.